Before we step into the flow of this moment, I want you to quiet your spirit and lean in, because today is not an ordinary day, and this is not an ordinary prayer. This is a divine alignment moment. As we stand at the dawn of a new year, God is summoning you into deeper clarity, sharper vision, and unshakable purpose. There are instructions heaven is releasing, but you must posture your heart to receive. So take a breath, still your thoughts, and prepare to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying concerning your journey, your destiny, and your 2026 assignment. Today, we are coming before God to seek His guidance, not casually, not passively, but intentionally, boldly, and with full expectation. You are not stepping into this new year blind. You are stepping in guided by the light of God, empowered by divine wisdom, and strengthened by supernatural insight. Foundations are being laid, patterns are being broken, new pathways are being opened. What you establish in prayer today will echo through the rest of your year. Heaven is attentive, the gates are open, and God is ready to direct you into the place He has prepared. So I want you to engage fully, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. As we begin this prayer, align your faith with action. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for daily prayers, and comment one thing you're believing God for today. Your declaration is a seed, your engagement is an act of faith, and your expectation is the atmosphere where miracles are born. Let's step in together. Let's speak together. When you step into a new year, the greatest gift you can give yourself is the decision to seek God's direction before you take a single step on your own. There is a calm power that settles over your life when you choose to pause, to breathe, and to ask God, what would you have me do? The world teaches you to chase, pursue, hustle, and figure everything out on your own. But the kingdom invites you into a different rhythm, one of stillness, one of listening, one of alignment. When you seek God first, you are not just praying, you are positioning your entire being under the leadership of the one who sees the end from the beginning. You are saying, I will not move until I hear from you. And that simple posture becomes the very strategy that carries you safely through what others stumble through blindly. It is easy to let the pressures of life make you feel rushed, as though you must make quick decisions or else you'll fall behind. But when you seek God's direction, you realize you can never be behind when you are walking in step with Him. Heaven is never in a hurry, yet it is always on time. God does not operate in anxiety, so when you place your year in His hands, you begin to experience a peace that brings clarity to your step. You realize that every choice, whether big or small, has the power to shape the trajectory of your life. And because of that, you begin to understand why God is calling you to slow down, to listen, and to invite Him into every crossroads you encounter. Seeking God's direction is not simply about asking for answers. It is about cultivating a heart that recognizes His voice in the first place. It is about building sensitivity to the gentle nudges, the quiet impressions, the inner stillness that signals His presence guiding you. Sometimes God speaks in a whisper, not because He wants to be hard to hear, but because He wants you close. He wants you leaning in. He wants you intentional. He wants you aware of His movements. And the more you prioritize His voice, the more naturally it becomes the compass by which you navigate your days. When you make a decision without God, you are relying on limited information, limited perspective, and limited wisdom. But when you pause and ask God to lead you, you tap into something limitless. You tap into supernatural intelligence, wisdom that sees around corners, insight that exposes hidden traps, clarity that reveals opportunities you could have never recognized on your own. There are relationships, commitments, and paths that look good on the surface but carry destruction underneath. And there are paths that seem risky or unclear that are actually the doorway to your greatest breakthroughs. Only God can distinguish between them. This is why you seek Him first. There will be moments throughout your year when emotions try to dictate your decisions. Fear may try to push you, excitement may try to pull you, pressure from others may try to direct you, but when God is the one guiding you, Your emotions lose their authority. You begin to make decisions from a place of groundedness, not from panic or impulse. In his presence, your heart slows down enough to see what truly matters. And your spirit quiets enough to hear what is truly right. And your mind becomes clear enough to discern what aligns with his purpose for you. Seeking God's direction is also a form of surrender. It is acknowledging that your own understanding, no matter how intelligent or experienced you are, will always be incomplete. It is saying, God, I trust your plan more than I trust my own plans. And that trust creates space for God to guide you into places you never imagined entering. It frees you from the burden of trying to figure everything out. It lifts the pressure of trying to carry the weight of your future alone. Your role is obedience. His role is guidance. Your role is willingness. His role is wisdom. When you embrace that divine exchange, you no longer walk through life overwhelmed. You walk strengthened. There are doors that God wants to open for you this year, but you must be in the right position to access them. Seeking his direction ensures you are not standing in the wrong hallway. There are blessings that require preparation before they can be received. Seeking his direction ensures you don't arrive at the blessing unprepared. There are battles you're not meant to fight and burdens you're not meant to carry. Seeking his direction ensures you don't waste energy where God has not assigned you. Every time you pause and listen, you are realigning your path with the blueprint heaven wrote for your life long before you were born. As you seek God's direction this year, you will notice something beautiful begin to happen inside of you. Your confidence will grow, not the kind rooted in your own strength, but the kind rooted in the assurance that God is with you. You will begin making decisions without fear because you know they do not come from your own limited thinking. You will walk boldly because you know God orchestrated your steps. You will feel lighter because you are no longer moving through life in your own strength. And you will notice a calm authority rising within you, a quiet power that comes from divine alignment. There will be days when seeking God's direction feels effortless, but there will also be days when you feel distracted, tired, or spiritually dull. On those days, remind yourself that seeking God is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about longing for him. It is about creating space for him. Even the smallest prayer, Lord, lead me, releases heaven's movement in your life. God honors every attempt you make to hear him. He sees every moment you choose to listen, and he responds not because you are perfect, but because you belong to him. As you start your year, don't just seek God's direction for major decisions. Seek him in the everyday choices that build your character, shape your habits, and determine your growth. Seek him in how you speak, how you think, how you treat people, how you manage your time, how you steward your opportunities, how you guard your peace. The more areas you invite him into, the more areas he becomes responsible for. And God takes care of what belongs to him with extraordinary attention. When you seek God's direction, you also begin to recognize divine timing. Not everything is meant to happen immediately. Some instructions require waiting. Some opportunities require patience. And some blessings require you to grow before you receive them. But when God is guiding you, waiting never feels like wasting. Delays never feel like dead ends. You come to understand that God is not just preparing the blessing for you, he is preparing you for the blessing. And in that preparation, your faith deepens, your discernment sharpens, and your spirit becomes anchored. As you move through this year, there will be moments when you will feel God pulling you away from certain environments, conversations, or relationships. Do not resist that gentle pull. That is his protection. Likewise, there will be moments when God will nudge you toward new opportunities, new people, or new responsibilities. Do not shrink back in fear. That is his promotion. Seeking his direction means trusting that every divine pull and every divine push carries purpose. Throughout this year, make it your habit to stop and ask God, what is your will here? Ask it quietly during the day. Ask it in moments of uncertainty. Ask it when you feel overwhelmed. Ask it when you feel inspired. Ask it when you sense a new opportunity approaching. With each question, you build a life led by the Spirit rather than by circumstance. You create an atmosphere where God can speak, and you cultivate a heart that is ready to follow wherever he leads. Seeking God's direction is not something you do once at the beginning of the year. It is a continuous lifestyle, a daily realignment, a moment-by-moment communion. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. The more you listen, the clearer his voice becomes. And the more you obey, the more confident you become in your ability to discern his leading. Over time, you will begin to walk with a grace that others can sense, a peace that others cannot explain, a wisdom that others cannot ignore. This year, allow God to be your compass. Let him decide what deserves your attention. Let him illuminate the paths that lead to life. Let him remove the options that are beneath your destiny. Let him sharpen your vision so you see beyond what is visible. Let him strengthen your spirit so you do not waver when challenges arise. Let him be the one who establishes the blueprint of your year, day by day, decision by decision, moment by moment. As you seek his direction before making any decision, you are building your year on divine strategy, not human assumptions. You are establishing a foundation that cannot be shaken. You are choosing wisdom over impulse, purpose over pressure, and destiny over distraction. And every time you ask him to lead you, heaven responds with guidance, clarity, and peace that surpasses understanding. And there is a quiet strength that rises within you when you choose to establish your spiritual foundations early in the year. Establishing your foundation is not about performing religious routines. It is about anchoring your life in what is eternal, unshakable, and divinely aligned. When you take the time to intentionally set your spiritual footing, you create stability in a world filled with shifting circumstances. You create space for God's voice to become the clearest influence in your life. You create room for your spirit to settle into peace, no matter what situations unfold around you. And this is what carries you through the year with grace instead of anxiety, with purpose instead of confusion, with strength instead of weariness. You cannot build a tall structure on a shallow foundation. You cannot sustain greatness on an unstable inner life. You cannot move into higher levels of calling if the ground beneath your soul has cracks. This is why God called you at the very beginning of the year to go deeper, to slow down long enough to examine the structure of your spiritual life. Are you anchored? Are you rooted? Are you aligned? Are you standing on solid ground, or are you being carried by the emotions and pressures of the moment? When you establish your spiritual foundation early, you decide that your life will not be shaped by chaos, culture, or circumstances, but by the principles, wisdom, and presence of God himself. There is a calmness that comes over you when you know who you are in God before the challenges of the year even arrive. When you start your year grounded, you respond differently to adversity. You see difficulties as temporary. You recognize that storms cannot uproot what has been firmly planted. You begin to walk with a stability that confuses people who expect you to crumble, but you don't crumble because you've already built your inner world on a foundation that cannot be moved. God becomes your anchor, your shield, your stabilizer, and your point of reference. Everything else becomes secondary. Establishing your spiritual foundation early also protects your identity. In a world that constantly tries to pull you into comparison, insecurity, striving, and self-doubt, grounding yourself in God reminds you that you are chosen, loved, and intentionally crafted. When your foundation is in him, other people's opinions lose their power, pressure loses its grip. You stop needing external validation because internal stability has been established. You start moving from a place of wholeness instead of lack, clarity instead of confusion, confidence instead of fear. Your spiritual foundation shapes how you think. It shapes how you speak. It shapes the decisions you make, the relationships you pursue, the environments you enter, the opportunities you accept, and the paths you walk. When God is your foundation, your life stops being reactive. You become intentional. You listen more than you rush. You observe more than you assume. You move with purpose rather than pressure. You develop the ability to see beyond what is happening and discern what God is doing. You stop living from circumstance to circumstance and start living from revelation to revelation. The beginning of the year is a sacred moment. It is not just a date on the calendar. It is a doorway, a threshold God invites you to cross with awareness, with preparation, with spiritual sensitivity. When you step into a new year without establishing your foundation, you enter unprepared for the unexpected. But when you start your year with a deeply rooted spiritual life, nothing can sway you easily. Disappointments may come, but they do not derail you. Delays may happen, but they do not discourage you. Disruptions may appear, but they do not distract you. Your stability is internal, not external. Every strong foundation requires intentional construction. You cannot build a spiritual foundation through wishful thinking or casual prayer. It comes through consistency, daily moments of silence with God, simple prayers spoken with sincerity, scriptures that recalibrate your thinking, worship that softens your heart, stillness that fine-tunes your spirit to God's frequency. These practices do not make you religious. They make you rooted. They do not make you rigid. They make you resilient. They do not make you distant. They make you deeply connected to the one who sustains you internally. When you establish your spiritual foundation early in the year, you are intentionally creating emotional stability for the journey ahead. You begin to notice that you do not get upset as easily, that your peace is not fragile, that your joy is not dependent on circumstances. You become aware that your spirit feels stronger, your mind feels clearer, your heart feels lighter. And this happens because you are no longer trying to survive the year. You are starting the year with spiritual alignment that strengthens every part of your being. God honors the foundation you choose to build. When you set Him as your priority, He begins to reveal things you could not see before. He begins to open doors that were previously hidden. He begins to close pathways that would have harmed you. He begins to bring clarity where there was confusion. Establishing your foundation is not just spiritual maintenance, it is spiritual strategy. It is choosing to align your life with heaven's blueprint instead of leaving your year to chance. You cannot predict the future, but you can prepare for it by anchoring yourself in God. Your foundation becomes the filter through which you interpret everything that happens. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is God shaping within me? Instead of feeling overwhelmed by change, you learn to embrace it because you know God is directing your path. Instead of panicking when things don't go your way, you lean into faith because your foundation is rooted in trust, not fear. There will be moments this year when your foundation will be tested. Moments when you will feel stretched, challenged, or pushed beyond your comfort zone. But those tests do not come to break you. They come to reveal the strength of what you've built. Strong foundations are not proven in calm weather. They are proven in storms. When you have established yourself spiritually, storms do not destroy you. They develop you. They refine you. They deepen your reliance on God. They strengthen the structure of your character. And when the storm passes, you remain standing, not by accident, but by design. Establishing your foundation also requires you to examine what needs to be removed. Some habits cannot follow you into the new year. Some mindsets cannot go with you. Some emotional patterns must be released. Some relationships require reevaluation. Some environments require distance. God cannot build new structures on old ground that has not been cleared. Establishing your foundation means surrendering anything that threatens your alignment. It means releasing what weakens your spirit, drains your energy, or clouds your clarity. It means being honest with yourself about what supports your growth and what sabotages it. When you take time to build your spiritual foundation early, you are not delaying your progress. You are securing it. You are ensuring that when blessings come, you have the maturity to handle them. You are ensuring that when responsibilities increase, you are not crushed under their weight. You are ensuring that when opportunities arise, you have the discernment to recognize which ones are God's will. Strong foundation does not slow your journey. It stabilizes your elevation. This year, decide that your spiritual life will not be an afterthought. Decide that God will not be your last resort, but your first point of contact. Decide that your peace, your clarity, your purpose, and your spiritual alignment are worth protecting. Decide that you will not live emotionally unstable, mentally scattered, or spiritually ungrounded. Decide that you will meet the year prepared, not because you know what is coming, but because you know who is leading you. Establishing your spiritual foundation early is an act of faith. It is telling God, I am ready to build my life your way. It is telling the enemy, you will not shake me this year. It is telling your future, I am stepping into you with stability. And it is telling yourself, I choose grounding over drifting, growth over stagnation, alignment over confusion. When your spiritual foundation is strong, everything else becomes balanced. Your goals become clearer. Your priorities become healthier. Your relationships become more meaningful. Your decisions become wiser. Your emotions become steadier. Your vision becomes sharper. You live with intention, not exhaustion. You walk with focus, not frustration. You carry peace with you, not because life is perfect, but because your foundation is secure. Establishing your foundation early is not just preparation, it is protection, empowerment, clarity, and alignment. It sets the tone for your entire year. It creates the internal structure that supports your external life. It gives you the strength to rise above what others collapse under, and it becomes the quiet confidence that carries you from one season to the next with grace, wisdom, and unwavering stability. There comes a point in every new beginning where you must make a conscious, deliberate decision to surrender the patterns of your past and invite God to realign your steps with His perfect will for the year ahead. This is not an emotional moment. It is a spiritual turning point. It is the quiet but powerful choice to say, God, I release what has held me and I receive what you are preparing for me. So much of what limits us is not what is happening around us, but what has been happening within us. Old habits, conditioned reactions, outdated beliefs, emotional wounds, fears we've learned to live with, patterns we've carried for years without questioning. When the new year begins, God extends an invitation, a gentle prompting to examine what has followed you from previous seasons, and to surrender anything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Realignment cannot happen while you are holding tightly to what God is asking you to let go of. You cannot step into divine order while clinging to cycles of confusion. You cannot embrace new spiritual strength while protecting old emotional wounds. You cannot walk confidently into the plans God has prepared while entertaining thoughts, behaviors, or relationships that keep you spiritually stagnant. Realignment requires release. It requires honesty with yourself. It requires the humility to acknowledge that your way has not always led you where you hoped it would. And it requires the courage to trust that God's way, though sometimes unfamiliar, will always lead you into greater purpose, greater clarity, and greater peace. There are patterns God wants to break off your life, not because He is punishing you, but because He is preparing you. There are ways of thinking that once helped you survive but are now preventing you from growing. There are habits you formed during seasons of stress that do not serve you in seasons of purpose. There are mindsets you adopted out of fear that cannot coexist with faith. There are emotional responses that were shaped by past wounds but cannot be carried into your future. God sees every hidden cycle that drains you, distracts you, and diminishes you, and He is calling you into a deeper level of freedom, not freedom that comes from trying harder, but freedom that comes from surrendering more. Surrender is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of wisdom. It is the recognition that your greatest breakthroughs come when you stop fighting God and start yielding to His direction. When you surrender, you shift from self-reliance to divine reliance. You stop carrying burdens that were never assigned to you. You stop forcing outcomes that were never meant for you. You stop repeating cycles that your spirit has already outgrown. And in that surrender, you create space, holy space, where God can step in and reshape your steps according to His design. Realignment is God's response to your willingness to let go. When you open your hands and release the old, God takes what you surrendered and replaces it with something greater. When you lay down your limited understanding, He gives you wisdom. When you let go of fear, He fills you with courage. When you release your anxiety, He pours in peace. When you surrender emotional heaviness, He restores joy. When you give up control, He establishes order. Every act of surrender becomes an act of trust, and every act of trust becomes a doorway into deeper alignment with Him. Throughout your life, you may have developed certain patterns unknowingly, patterns of overthinking, patterns of isolation, patterns of rushing, patterns of pleasing people, patterns of doubting yourself, patterns of operating from survival mode instead of rest. These patterns might feel familiar. Familiarity is not the same as alignment. Familiarity is comfortable, but alignment is transformative. Familiarity keeps you where you've been, but alignment takes you where God is calling you. And God is calling you into a higher, healthier, more spiritually aligned version of yourself. Inviting God to realign your steps means giving Him permission to interrupt whatever does not fit His plan. It means welcoming His adjustments even when they challenge you. It means accepting His redirection even when you don't understand it fully. It means trusting His timing even when it stretches your patience. It means embracing His pruning, even when it feels uncomfortable. Realignment is often a gentle, continuous reshaping, a shift in how you think, how you pray, how you respond, how you interpret situations, how you make decisions. God guides you not only through big dramatic moments, but through subtle inner transformations that gradually recalibrate your entire life. Sometimes God realigns your steps by creating internal restlessness in the areas where you do not belong. You may find that certain conversations no longer feel nourishing, certain habits no longer bring comfort, certain environments no longer feel like home. That discomfort is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of growth. It is God loosening your attachment to what is beneath your calling. It is His way of telling you, you cannot stay here. I am taking you somewhere else. Your spirit recognizes the shift long before your mind fully understands it. When you feel that inner tug, that spiritual stretching, that quiet whisper urging you forward, that is realignment in motion. Other times, realignment happens through clarity, moments where something suddenly makes sense, where confusion melts away, where you see a decision with new eyes, where you finally understand why something happened the way it did. Clarity is one of God's greatest gifts during realignment. It brings order to your thoughts, direction to your choices, and peace to your soul. It removes unnecessary noise and allows you to hear what truly matters. In clarity, you recognize the difference between what is urgent and what is important, between what is temporary and what is purposeful, between what is familiar and what is aligned. Realignment also requires patience. There are moments when God is shifting things beneath the surface, rearranging your relationships, preparing opportunities, closing doors, strengthening your character, healing wounds you didn't know you still carried. You may not see the progress immediately, but God is working. His alignments are precise. Nothing he rearranges is accidental. Nothing he removes is random. Nothing he changes is without deeper meaning. As he realigns your steps, he is shaping your spirit to walk in maturity, resilience, and discernment. As you invite God into the process, you will notice subtle changes within yourself. Your reactions become calmer, your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become wiser, your priorities shift. Your emotional triggers lose their power, your spirit feels lighter. These are the signs that the old patterns are breaking and the new alignment is taking root. They may not feel dramatic, but they are deeply transformative. God's work within you is often quiet, but its impact is extraordinary. There will be moments when part of you wants to return to the familiar, not because it is better, but because it is easier. But don't confuse comfort with calling. Don't confuse old habits with stability. Don't confuse past patterns with peace. The familiar can feel safe, but growth requires stepping into the unknown with God. Realignment will stretch you, but it will not harm you. God does not lead you into anything that does not serve your growth. His realignment is always an act of love, an act of guidance, an act of preparation. As God realigns your steps, he will begin to guide you into new rhythms, new ways of thinking, new ways of handling pressure, new ways of responding to challenges, new ways of connecting with him. You will notice that your perspective shifts. You no longer interpret delays as denials. You no longer see obstacles as barriers, but as opportunities to grow stronger. You no longer make decisions based on fear, but based on faith. You begin walking with a deeper level of spiritual maturity, a calmness that isn't easily shaken, and a clarity that brings peace even in uncertainty. God's realignment often leads to unexpected blessings. The moment you release what was draining you, you make room for what is destined for you. The moment you surrender the past, you open the door to new beginnings. The moment you let go of old patterns, you unlock new spiritual insight. God cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. He must first transform the vessel. He must strengthen your foundation. He must purify your motives. He must refine your character. When you invite him to realign your steps, you are telling him, prepare me for the next level. Shape me for what you are bringing. Correct my course so I do not wander off the path you've ordained. There will be days when the process feels slow, but slow alignment is still alignment. There will be days when you feel stretched, but stretching is a sign of expansion. There will be days when releasing old patterns feels painful, but pain is often the doorway to healing. And through every moment, God remains patient, gentle, and committed to your transformation. He does not rush the process. He perfects it. He does not force alignment. He invites it. He does not demand change. He guides you into it lovingly. Inviting God to realign your steps means you trust him more than you trust your past, your fears, or your own understanding. It means you are choosing spiritual alignment over emotional reaction, divine wisdom over worldly pressure, purposeful change over repetitive cycles. It means you are choosing to walk into 2026 with intention, awareness, and clarity. You are choosing to break free from anything that held you back, slowed you down, or kept you spiritually fragmented. This year, allow God to recalibrate your path. Allow him to expose what no longer serves you. Allow him to heal what you didn't know was wounded. Allow him to break what has been binding you. Allow him to strengthen what has been weakened. Allow him to rearrange what has been misaligned. And allow him to build a new pattern within you, one rooted in peace, wisdom, maturity, and divine purpose. You begin to declare God's wisdom, clarity, and guidance over every area of your life. You are doing more than speaking words. You are shaping your atmosphere, redirecting your thoughts, and aligning your spirit with heaven's frequency. Your declarations are not empty sentences floating into the air. They are spiritual commands that establish order where there was confusion, calm where there was chaos, and focus where there was distraction. Every declaration you speak becomes a seed planted into the soil of your year, and those seeds carry the power to produce supernatural outcomes. When you open your mouth and boldly declare God's guidance, you acknowledge that you are not walking into this year alone. You are walking with the one who crafted the blueprint of your destiny long before you ever took your first breath. There is something profoundly calming about declaring the promises of God. Your spirit settles, your mind becomes still, your heart begins to trust in a new way. You feel a gentle realignment taking place inside you, as if your entire inner world is shifting into divine order. These moments of declaration are not merely acts of faith, they are acts of surrender. You are saying, God, lead me, speak to me, guide me, anchor me. And heaven responds to this posture with peace that cannot be shaken. When you speak God's wisdom over your life, you silence the noise of doubt, fear, and confusion that tries to settle in your spirit. You replace uncertainty with clarity. You replace self-reliance with divine dependence. You replace anxiety with assurance. God's wisdom is not like human wisdom. Human wisdom is limited by experience, knowledge, and perspective. Divine wisdom flows from the one who sees all things, past, present, and future, simultaneously. When you declare his wisdom over your decisions, you are inviting heaven's intelligence into your earthly choices. You are granting God access to guide your steps, reshape your thinking, and illuminate your path. Every time you proclaim, Lord, give me wisdom, you are acknowledging that his understanding is greater than yours. You are affirming that you want his mind to influence your decisions rather than the narrow lens of human reasoning. This humble posture brings extraordinary clarity into your life. Clarity is the gift that removes confusion. It is the spiritual light that reveals what is real, what is purposeful, what is aligned, and what is not meant for you. When you declare clarity over your year, you are asking God to remove the fog that tries to cloud your judgment. You are inviting him to expose distractions, reveal hidden motives, and illuminate the decisions that require your attention. Clarity keeps you from walking blindly. It protects you from settling for less. It saves you from making emotional decisions. It opens your eyes to the truth that lies beneath situations, relationships, and opportunities. Without clarity, you drift. With clarity, you move with intention. God's guidance is the compass that keeps you from wandering off course. When you declare his guidance, you are acknowledging that you do not want to navigate life by guessing or hoping. You want to be led by the Spirit. God guides you in ways you do not always recognize at first. Sometimes he directs you through peace, sometimes through discomfort, sometimes through closed doors, sometimes through unexpected opportunities, sometimes through quiet impressions that settle in your heart. When you declare his guidance, you become more aware of how he speaks. You become sensitive to his movements. You begin to notice subtle shifts that you once overlooked. You begin to trust his leading even when the path looks uncertain. There is a calm that enters your life when you know you are being guided by God. It doesn't mean you will always know what comes next. It means you no longer need to know. Guidance frees you from feeling pressured to predict outcomes or control situations. When you trust that God is directing your steps, you can walk forward without fear. You can make decisions without anxiety. You can move through transitions without losing your peace. You become anchored in the assurance that God will not let you wander into places that are wrong for you. He will not allow you to settle where you do not belong. He will not allow you to miss what is meant for you. His guidance is steady, gentle, and precise. Declaring God's wisdom, clarity, and guidance over your life is an act of spiritual protection. Your declarations establish boundaries around your mind and heart. They guard you from confusion. They shield you from emotional chaos. They create a spiritual barrier that keeps negativity, fear, and spiritual distraction from taking root. When you declare God's words, you are reinforcing your identity as someone who is led by the Spirit, not by circumstances. You are reminding yourself that you belong to a God who speaks, directs, protects, and reveals. Declarations become a daily realignment that keeps your spirit stable and your steps ordered. When you consistently speak God's wisdom over your choices, you begin to notice a transformation in the way you think. Your thoughts become more strategic. Your perspective becomes broader. You stop rushing into decisions. You start discerning the difference between what is urgent and what is important. You begin recognizing which opportunities carry divine assignment and which ones are merely distractions dressed as opportunities. Wisdom shifts how you manage your time, how you respond to people, how you handle pressure, and how you interpret challenges. You no longer approach life from a place of reaction. You operate from a place of spiritual intelligence. Clarity also transforms the posture of your heart. When clarity enters your life, uncertainty loses its control. Situations that used to confuse you no longer shake you. You begin to understand why certain doors closed, why certain relationships shifted, why certain seasons ended. Clarity helps you make peace with what once troubled you. It helps you let go of what is not aligned. It helps you focus on what truly matters. It helps you see yourself, your purpose, and your calling with greater accuracy. Clarity brings calm to your inner world. It brings direction to your choices. It brings peace to your thoughts. Guidance transforms your journey. It changes the way you move through life. You begin to walk with patience, trust, and attentiveness. You learn to wait when God says wait and move when God says move. You no longer force what isn't flowing. You no longer cling to what God is removing. You no longer fear stepping into new territory because you know you are not stepping alone. Guidance teaches you to lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him. And as you acknowledge Him, He directs your path with intentional precision. There will be moments when you feel unsure, moments when you cannot see the full picture, moments when the path ahead seems dim. But when you have declared God's wisdom, clarity, and guidance over your life, you learn to trust even when you cannot trace His hand. You remain grounded even in uncertainty. You remain peaceful even in transition. You learn to walk step by step, breath by breath, trusting that each moment of obedience leads you deeper into alignment with His will. Your declarations also influence your emotions. When your words align with God's truth, your emotions follow. Fear begins to loosen its grip. Anxiety dissipates. Doubt weakens. You begin to feel lifted, held, reassured. You start noticing that you react differently to challenges. You remain calmer. You remain centered. You remain connected to God's presence within you. This is the effect of speaking truth into your atmosphere. Truth stabilizes, truth strengthens, truth steadies. As you move through the year, your declarations become a lifestyle, an ongoing conversation between you and God. You begin each morning by speaking alignment over your life. You end each night by declaring peace. You speak wisdom before making decisions. You speak clarity before responding. You speak guidance before moving forward. These declarations invite the presence of God into your daily rhythm. They create an environment where your spirit remains connected, open, and receptive to His leading. Every time you declare God's wisdom, clarity, and guidance over your life, you are also declaring your trust in Him. You are saying, I believe you will lead me. I believe you will reveal what I need to know. I believe you will show me where to go. I believe you will protect my steps. I believe you will order my path. Trust is the foundation of every declaration you speak. Trust is what opens the door to supernatural direction. Trust is what turns declarations into manifestation. This year, make it a habit to speak life over your journey. Speak wisdom into your decisions. Speak clarity into your mind. Speak guidance into your steps. Your words carry authority. They carry power. They carry spiritual weight. When you speak them with faith, they create a shift in the atmosphere around you. They open the way for God to move. They position you to hear, to receive, and to walk in alignment with divine instruction. As you declare these truths, they begin to reshape the way you move through life. You walk more gently. You walk more intentionally. You walk more confidently. You walk with a calmness that comes from knowing you are guided by a source far greater than yourself. You carry a quiet assurance that God is involved in every detail, every decision, every transition, and every opportunity. His wisdom becomes your foundation. His clarity becomes your lens. His guidance becomes your compass. Declaring God's wisdom, clarity, and guidance over your life becomes a spiritual anchor, a steady force that grounds you, directs you, and prepares you for every season ahead. It cultivates a peace that surpasses understanding, a strength that does not waver, and a sense of purpose that cannot be shaken. And as you continue to speak these declarations, they begin to shape your reality, aligning your life with the divine order God intended for you from the very beginning. As we close this moment, allow your spirit to settle into the peace that is already resting upon you. You have invited God into your decisions, your direction, and your destiny. You have opened your heart to his wisdom and yielded your steps to his guidance. Carry this stillness with you. Let it follow you into your day, into your thoughts, into every place where uncertainty once lived. God is already going ahead of you. He is already preparing your path. He is already aligning what concerns you. Breathe deeply and know you are not walking into this year alone. Let your heart remain open as God continues to speak throughout the day. He will whisper in the quiet moments. He will confirm in unexpected ways. He will guide you gently, consistently, and faithfully. Do not rush. Do not force. Simply allow yourself to be led. Trust the still, small voice. Trust the peace. Trust the direction he gives you step by step. Everything you surrendered, God has received. Everything you declared, heaven has heard, and everything you are believing for is already held in God's hands. As you walk forward, move with calm confidence, move with awareness, move with sensitivity to God's presence. The same peace you feel right now is available every morning you wake up, every moment you pause to breathe, every time you align your heart with God's will. This calm is not temporary. It is a gift, a covering, a divine atmosphere you can carry with you throughout your journey. Make room for God in the small moments, and you will see him move in the big ones. Let this prayer mark the beginning of a year shaped by intention, discernment, and unshakable faith. Let it be the foundation upon which you build every decision, every plan, and every desire. When the year becomes busy, return to this place of stillness. When challenges arise, remember the alignment you've established. When you feel uncertain, speak the declarations you've learned. Step into every day knowing God is guiding you, shaping you, and surrounding you with his wisdom. And as you go, stay connected to the space of prayer and alignment. Like the video if it blessed you. Subscribe to the channel for daily prayers that will continue strengthening and grounding your spirit. And comment one thing you're believing God for today. Your declaration is not just a comment. It's an act of faith. It's a seed. It's a moment of connection between you and heaven. May God's peace, guidance, and clarity rest upon you throughout this year. Beloved, hear me clearly today. This is not just another Friday. This is a divinely appointed moment where heaven has already leaned in your direction. I sense an urgency in the spirit because there are forces contending for what concerns you. But I came with an announcement. God has not left you uncovered, unguarded, or unattended. What has been weighing on your mind, what has been threatening your peace, what has been circling your family, your destiny, your future. Today it comes under divine scrutiny and divine protection. This is not a casual prayer. This is a strategic moment where God releases covering over everything that carries your name. I decree that nothing assigned to sabotage your progress will succeed, because the God who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. You may not see what he is blocking. You may not hear what he is silencing. But I promise you this, there are dangers you never encountered because God intercepted them before they reached you. Today, we are not reacting to attacks. We are preemptively positioning ourselves under the shield of the Almighty. The enemy does not get the final say over your health, your finances, your children, your mind, or your calling. Listen to me carefully. What concerns you concerns God. What keeps you awake at night has already been discussed in the courts of heaven. You are not praying from a place of fear. You are praying from a place of authority. When you speak today, heaven responds. When you declare today, angels mobilize. I want you to understand that protection is not luck. It is covenant. And because you are in covenant, no weapon formed against you will prosper, no agenda formed in secret will prevail, and no plot designed in darkness will overpower the light of God resting on your life. As we step into this prayer, I want your faith engaged, not passive. If you are ready to receive divine protection over your mind, your home, your journey, and everything connected to you, take a moment right now and like this video as an act of agreement. Subscribe to this channel for daily prayer, because consistency in prayer builds spiritual immunity. And I want you to type amen in the comments, not as a ritual, but as a declaration that you are aligned with what God is doing in this moment. And finally, I want you to activate your expectation. Comment one thing you are believing God for today. Speak it, name it, release it. Because as you do, you are placing that concern under divine custody. Today, God's protection is not just around you. It is ahead of you, behind you, above you, beneath you, and within you. Stay with me, because what God is about to cover, nothing will be able to touch. Beloved, I want you to settle your spirit right now and lean into this moment, because we are speaking about a protection that does not fluctuate with circumstances, a covering that does not weaken when pressure increases, a divine shield that surrounds every area of your life, whether you are conscious of it or not. God's protection is not selective, it is comprehensive. It does not guard only what you pray about, it guards even what you forgot to mention. Even what you did not see coming, even what you were unaware was forming. There is a protection that rests on your mind while you sleep, on your body while you work, on your name while you are silent, on your future while you are present in today. This protection is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is not dependent on how strong you feel. It is rooted in who God is and not in what you do. God, what do you say? I want you to understand that there are things happening around you right now that you will never have language for. Moments God stepped in quietly, altered outcomes subtly, redirected paths gently, and you kept moving forward, unaware that something dangerous had just been dismantled on your behalf. God has been shielding conversations you were never invited into, blocking decisions that would have harmed you, delaying things that looked like denial but were actually divine restraint. Protection does not always look like rescue at the last minute. Sometimes it looks like never being exposed to the danger at all. And this is the kind of covering God has placed around your life. There is protection over your physical body, even when you feel weak. Protection over your mind, even when thoughts feel heavy. Protection over your emotions, even when memories try to resurface. Protection over your household, even when chaos attempts to enter. God does not protect in fragments. He protects in fullness. He surrounds, he encircles, he overshadows, he fortifies. When Scripture speaks of God being a shield, it is not poetic language. It is legal authority. It means nothing is permitted to touch you unless it passes through him first. Beloved, there are unseen realms interacting with your visible world, and God has assigned guardians to your destiny. Angels are not decorative, they are functional. They are dispatched to guard, to war, to intervene, to stand watch. While you were busy managing daily responsibilities, heaven was busy managing threats you never detected. While you were navigating ordinary routines, God was navigating extraordinary complexities on your behalf. This is not exaggeration, this is covenant reality. You are surrounded when you travel, when you commute, when you enter spaces where intentions are unclear. You are protected when you speak and when you remain silent, when you make decisions and when you are uncertain. God's protection is not reactive. It is proactive. It goes ahead of you. It prepares the terrain before you arrive. It shifts atmospheres so you can walk safely where others stumble. Even in unfamiliar territory, protection recognizes you. I want to speak peace into your spirit concerning the things that have caused you anxiety, the what ifs, the unknowns, the things you cannot control. God's protection extends into uncertainty. You do not need to foresee every outcome to be safe. You do not need to anticipate every challenge to be secure. Protection is not the absence of opposition, it is the presence of divine oversight. You are overseen in your finances, overseen in your relationships, overseen in your decisions, overseen in your growth. There is protection over your reputation even when you are misunderstood. Protection over your purpose even when you feel delayed. Protection over your calling even when opposition intensifies. God does not allow what he has ordained to be easily destroyed. What he plants, he guards. What he assigns, he secures. What he anoints, he preserves. You are not vulnerable the way you think you are. The enemy may study you, but he cannot overrule God's authority over you. There are things that attempted to attach themselves to your life and failed, not because you were strong enough to resist, but because God said no. There are cycles that stopped with you, patterns that broke through you, generational threats that ended because divine protection interrupted their progress. This covering does not just protect you, it alters what comes after you. It creates safety for those connected to you, for children, for family, for legacy. Even in moments where you felt exposed, God was still present. Even in seasons where you felt uncovered, he was still watching. Sometimes protection is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek attention. It simply works. You look back later and realize you should not have survived that. You should not have made it through that. You should not have come out intact. And yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still believing. Beloved, God's protection surrounds every area of your life, not just spiritually, but practically, emotionally, mentally. There is protection against burnout, protection against despair, protection against confusion. There's protection against relationships that would drain you, against opportunities that look good but carry hidden harm. God closes doors that would cost you peace. He blocks access to things that would derail your destiny. And sometimes he does it without explanation, because explanation would require exposure to what he already handled. You are protected in transition, protected in waiting, protected in acceleration. Whether you are in a season of stillness or movement, the same covering applies. God does not reduce protection when things get quiet, and he does not increase it only when things get loud. His protection is consistent, steady, reliable, does not depend on your mood, your performance, or your awareness. I want you to rest in the reality that nothing can casually enter your life. Everything must pass through divine permission. And if God allows it, it is because it will not destroy you. Protection does not mean absence of challenges. It means challenges are regulated. Storms may come, but they will not carry the authority to end you. Pressure may rise, but it will not overpower you. Attacks may form, but they will not prevail. There is protection over your time, over your steps, over your decisions. Even when you make mistakes, God's protection cushions the impact. Even when you choose wrongly, mercy intervenes. Even when you are unsure, grace covers. This is not permission to be careless. This is assurance that God is attentive. He is invested in your preservation. Beloved, you are not walking through life exposed. You are not navigating this world unguarded. You are not left to fend for yourself. You are surrounded, shielded, watched over. Protection is woven into your days, embedded in your nights, surrounding your coming and going. You are kept when you are aware and when you are unaware, when you are prayerful and when you are exhausted, when you are strong and when you are weak. Let your spirit be calm as you listen to this truth. Let anxiety loosen its grip. Let fear release its hold. Let rest return to your soul. God's protection is not something you have to earn. It is something you receive because you belong to Him. You are not outside His reach. You are not beyond His sight. You are not forgotten in the complexity of life. There is a divine perimeter around you that darkness cannot penetrate. There is a boundary established by God that chaos cannot cross. There is a watchfulness over you that never sleeps. Even now, as you breathe, as you listen, as you sit in this moment, protection is active. Heaven is attentive. God is present. You are surrounded on every side, above and beneath, before and behind, covered when you rise, covered when you rest, covered when you speak, covered when you are silent. This is not temporary. This is not seasonal. This is your portion. This is your reality. Beloved, I want you to breathe deeply and allow this truth to settle gently into your spirit, because what concerns you has never escaped the attention of God, not even for a moment. There is nothing in your life that has surprised Him, nothing that has appeared suddenly without already being known, weighed, and addressed in the courts of heaven. Before worry ever reached your mind, before fear ever touched your heart, before confusion ever entered your thoughts, God had already seen it, named it, and positioned Himself in authority over it. You are not carrying something that heaven is unaware of. You are not managing a situation that God has overlooked. And you are not struggling with something that has not already been discussed, where decisions are eternal and outcomes are final. I want you to understand that heaven operates on a level of foresight that far exceeds human perception. God does not react to your problems. He anticipates them. He does not wait for emergencies to arise before intervening. He prepares answers long before the questions fully form. What you are facing now may feel overwhelming because you are encountering it in time, but God encountered it outside of time. He saw the end from the beginning. He understood every possible outcome, and He positioned His will to override anything that would attempt to destroy you. Beloved, when Scripture says that God knows the plans He has for you, it is not merely speaking of destiny, it is speaking of strategy. Heaven is strategic about your life. Every concern you have has already been reviewed in divine counsel. Every tear you cried was counted. Every prayer you whispered was recorded. Every fear you were too ashamed to say out loud was already known. You are not pleading your case to an uninformed God. You are aligning yourself with decisions that have already been made in your favor. There are conversations that have taken place in heaven about you that you were never invited to hear. Deliberations where God defended you. Rulings where mercy overruled judgment. Moments where grace interrupted consequences. You thought you were alone in the battle, but heaven was already engaged. You thought you were late, but heaven had already adjusted timing. You thought things were falling apart, but heaven had already rearranged the structure. To what concerns you has been addressed at a level higher than your anxiety. It has been handled beyond your understanding. It has been resolved beyond your effort. That is why peace is possible even when circumstances have not yet changed. Peace does not come from knowing how things will work out. Peace comes from knowing who is in control. And the one who governs heaven has already turned His attention toward the details of your life. Beloved, there are things you worried about that never happened because God canceled them before they reached you. There are outcomes you feared that were already denied access to your future. There are scenarios that played loudly in your mind but never received permission to manifest in reality. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. Heaven is not silent about your life. It is active, involved, and intentional. I want you to release the pressure of thinking that everything depends on you. The burden of responsibility you have been carrying was never meant to rest solely on your shoulders. God did not create you to be the sole manager of your destiny. He invites you into partnership, not isolation. What concerns you concerns Him, and what concerns Him is never neglected. Even now, while you sit with unanswered questions, heaven is not confused. While you wrestle with uncertainty, heaven is settled. While you wait for clarity, heaven has already mapped the route. Waiting does not mean nothing is happening. It often means something is happening beyond your ability to see. The delay you feel is not a denial. It is divine timing, aligning circumstances, people, and outcomes for your good. Beloved, when you bring your concerns to God, you are not adding them to His workload. You are not overwhelming Him. You are not distracting Him from something more important. There is nothing more important to God than what concerns His children. Your life matters at a level you cannot fully comprehend. Your peace matters. Your safety matters. Your future matters. Your growth matters. There are legal transactions that take place in the spiritual realm when you place your concerns before God. Accusations are silenced. Permissions are revoked. Boundaries are established. Authority is exercised. You may feel like your prayers are quiet, but heaven hears them loudly. You may feel like your faith is weak, but heaven honors your sincerity. I want you to rest in the assurance that nothing concerning you is unresolved in heaven. There may be things unfolding on earth, but the verdict has already been decided above. Heaven does not scramble when things look chaotic below. Heaven does not panic when systems fail. Heaven does not rush when pressure increases. Heaven operates from a place of eternal stability. Beloved, your concerns are not floating aimlessly in the universe. They are not subject to chance. They are not left to random outcomes. They are under divine jurisdiction. God has assumed responsibility for the things you cannot control. He has taken custody of what you cannot fix. He has claimed authority over what you cannot change. Even the things you have not yet recognized as concerns are already known. God is not waiting for you to discover the problem before He responds. He responds because He sees what is coming. He positions protection because He understands what lies ahead. He provides wisdom because He knows the decisions you will face. There is a calm that comes when you realize that your life is not being managed by luck or chance. There is relief when you understand that God is actively involved in the details. You are not praying into uncertainty. You are praying into alignment. You are not begging for attention. You are stepping into agreement with what heaven has already authorized. Beloved, stop revisiting worries that God has already resolved. Stop rehearsing fears that heaven has already dismissed. Stop carrying burdens that were never meant to remain in your hands. Trust does not mean you ignore reality. It means you acknowledge a higher authority over reality, and that authority has already spoken on your behalf. Even when answers seem slow, heaven is not idle. Even when outcomes are unclear, heaven is not undecided. Even when you feel weak, heaven is not withdrawing support. The silence you perceive is not absence. It is often activity beyond your hearing. Allow your spirit to rest in this truth. Let go of the need to control outcomes. Release the compulsion to figure everything out. Surrender the anxiety that comes from trying to manage tomorrow. God is already there. He has already seen it. He has already addressed it. What concerns you is not an afterthought to God. It is not insignificant. It is not overlooked. It has been weighed, measured, judged, and handled in a realm where nothing is uncertain. Your responsibility is not to worry. Your responsibility is to trust. Your role is not to panic. Your role is to remain aligned. Beloved, heaven has already taken your case. The ruling has already been issued. The authority has already been exercised. The protection has already been assigned. The provision has already been planned. The timing has already been set. Let peace replace pressure. Let trust replace tension. Let faith quiet the noise of fear. You are not waiting for heaven to respond. Heaven has already responded. Beloved, allow your spirit to settle into this truth gently and without resistance, because your life is not sustained by chance, it is secured by covenant. You are not here because things randomly worked out. You are standing because God bound himself to you with intention, promise, and authority. Covenant means commitment. It means responsibility. It means obligation on God's part toward you. You are not moving through life at the mercy of coincidence or probability. Every breath you take is happening under divine agreement. God did not casually allow you to exist. He entered into relationship with you, and that relationship carries protection, provision, and preservation. Covenant is not emotional, it is legal. It is not based on how you feel today or how strong your faith feels in the moment. Covenant remains intact even when your emotions fluctuate, even when your understanding is limited, even when your obedience feels imperfect. God does not revoke covenant because of weakness. He honors covenant because of his own integrity. That means your safety is not fragile. Your future is not unstable. Your destiny is not hanging by a thread. It is anchored in God's faithfulness, not in your consistency. Beloved, chance suggests randomness. Coincidence suggests accident. But covenant declares intention. Nothing about your life is accidental. Even the things you do not understand, even the seasons that confuse you, even the paths that seem unexpected are not random events. Covenant weaves purpose through unpredictability. God does not need everything to go smoothly to keep his promises intact. He is able to guard you in complexity, preserve you in pressure, and guide you even when the route looks unfamiliar. I want you to release the fear that something could suddenly happen and undo everything. Covenant does not allow sudden destruction without divine permission. It does not mean you will never face challenges, but it does mean challenges cannot cancel what God has promised. You are not exposed to chaos the way others may be. There are limits placed around what is allowed to touch you. There are boundaries established by covenant that darkness cannot cross. Beloved, covenant means God has taken personal responsibility for your life. He has attached his name to your outcome. He has staked his reputation on your preservation. That is why Scripture says he watches over his word to perform it. He is invested. He is attentive. He is committed. Your life is not a gamble to God. It is an assignment he intends to fulfill. There were moments when things could have gone very differently for you, when one decision, one delay, one interruption could have led to disaster, but covenant intervened. You may have thought you were lucky, but it was not luck. You may have thought you narrowly escaped, but it was not chance. It was covenant quietly asserting itself, redirecting paths, softening outcomes, protecting you from consequences you were not equipped to handle at the time. Covenant follows you into rooms you do not feel qualified to enter. It speaks for you when you do not know what to say. It covers you when your discernment is still developing. Covenant ensures that even when you are learning, you are not left unguarded. God does not wait for you to mature before he protects you. He protects you because you belong to him. Beloved, when you understand covenant, anxiety begins to lose its grip. Fear thrives on the illusion that everything is uncertain. Covenant establishes certainty in the middle of uncertainty. You may not know how things will unfold, but you know who is committed to you. You may not understand timing, but you trust the one who governs time. Covenant allows you to rest even when answers are incomplete. There is a covering over you that predates your awareness of God. Before you knew how to pray, before you knew how to believe, before you knew how to ask, covenant was already active. God does not wait for your perfection to honor his promises. He honors them because he is faithful to himself. Beloved, coincidence cannot sustain a life like yours. Randomness cannot explain your survival. Probability cannot justify your preservation. There are things you lived through that statistics cannot explain. There are moments you endured that logic cannot justify. Covenant fills the gap where human reasoning fails. Even when you felt disconnected, covenant remained connected. Even when you doubted, covenant did not dissolve. Even when you wandered, covenant did not abandon you. God's commitment is not as fragile as human commitment. He does not withdraw because of disappointment. He does not retreat because of delay. He remains because he promised. I want you to understand that covenant protection does not mean everything will be easy, but it does mean everything will be purposeful. Pain does not get the final word. Loss does not define the outcome. Delay does not cancel destiny. Covenant ensures that even hardship is regulated and redemption is always possible. Beloved, your life is not hanging on a thin thread of luck. It is held securely in the hands of a covenant-keeping God. That means when storms come, they come with limits. When opposition arises, it arises with restrictions. When challenges appear, they appear under supervision. Covenant also means inheritance. You are not just protected for survival. You are preserved for purpose. God guards what he intends to use. He covers what he plans to reveal. He secures what he has assigned. Your future is not an accident waiting to happen. It is a promise waiting to unfold. Beloved, there is relief when you realize that you are not responsible for holding everything together. Covenant shifts responsibility from your ability to God's faithfulness. Your role is to remain aligned, to trust, to stay receptive. God's role is to sustain, protect, and complete what he started. There are people who encountered the same storms you did and did not survive them. There are others who faced similar circumstances and were destroyed by them. The difference was not strength, intelligence, or preparation. The difference was covenant. God made sure you were not overwhelmed by what overwhelmed others. Even your mistakes did not disqualify you. Covenant made room for mercy. Even your wrong turns did not end you. Covenant rerouted you. Even your failures did not erase you. Covenant redeemed you. Beloved, if chance would have left you vulnerable, coincidence would have left you exposed. Covenant keeps you covered. It ensures that your life is not subject to random destruction. It establishes divine order where chaos attempts to reign. Allow this truth to bring calm to your soul. You do not have to constantly brace yourself for the worst. You do not have to live anticipating disaster. You are not walking through life defenseless. Covenant has already gone ahead of you. God's promises are not fragile agreements that can be easily broken. They are binding commitments sealed by his word. He does not forget. He does not change his mind impulsively. He does not abandon what he has claimed. Beloved, even now, covenant is working quietly on your behalf, adjusting timing, aligning people, blocking threats, opening pathways, strengthening you where you feel weak, sustaining you where you feel tired. You are covered by covenant when you wake up and when you lie down, covered when you understand and when you do not, covered when you feel confident and when you feel unsure, covered when you speak and when you are silent. Let this reality quiet the noise in your mind. Let it ease the tension in your body. Let it soften the fear that tries to creep in. You are not surviving by accident. You are living by divine agreement. You are not preserved by luck. You are kept by promise. Beloved, I want you to slow your thoughts and allow this truth to rest softly within you, because God has been intercepting dangers long before they ever had the chance to reach you. There are moments in your life where the threat never announced itself, the attack never revealed its intention, and the danger never showed its face, not because it was absent, but because it was stopped. God does not only rescue you when trouble arrives, He prevents trouble from arriving at all. He blocks paths, dismantles plans, and interrupts assignments before they ever cross into your awareness. There are routes you did not take, conversations you did not enter, decisions you delayed, and opportunities that never materialized, not because you lacked discernment, but because divine intervention quietly redirected your steps. God has been working behind the scenes, shifting variables, altering timelines, and neutralizing risks before they formed momentum. Protection often operates in silence because the greatest victories are the ones you never have to fight. Beloved, there were moments when the enemy had an assignment with your name on it, intentions formed in darkness, strategies devised in secrecy, but they never reached execution because God intervened early. He does not wait for danger to escalate before He responds. He intercepts at conception. He dismantles at the planning stage. He disrupts before damage can be done. This is the nature of divine oversight. You may never know how close certain things came to you. You may never understand how many times heaven intervened quietly. You may never see the full picture of what was prevented. And that is not a loss, it is a mercy. Some things would have burdened you with fear if you knew how near they were. God protects you not only from harm, but from the trauma of awareness. There were seasons when you felt delayed and frustrated, wondering why things were not moving faster, why doors were not opening, why progress felt slow. But delays were often divine barricades. God slowed you down because something ahead of you was not safe yet. He paused your momentum because acceleration would have placed you in harm's way. What you thought was stagnation was actually preservation. Beloved, God has been intercepting dangers through people, through timing, through circumstances, through inconvenient at the time. A missed call, a late arrival, a canceled plan, a sudden change of heart, a door that closed without explanation. Each one of these can be instruments of divine protection. Heaven does not always announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it whispers through inconvenience. You may have felt disappointment when certain relationships ended unexpectedly, but God was intercepting emotional harm you were not equipped to endure long term. You may have felt confusion when certain opportunities fell through, but God was blocking doors that carried hidden consequences. You may have felt rejected when access was denied, but God was shielding you from environments that would have compromised your peace. Beloved, even when you were unaware, God was attentive. Even when you were distracted, He was deliberate. Even when you were tired, He was vigilant. Protection does not depend on your alertness. It depends on His watchfulness. And He never sleeps. There are dangers that operate subtly, quietly, disguised as normalcy. God identifies what you would overlook. He sees beneath appearances. He knows the intentions behind smiles. He understands the motives behind offers. He discerns what is hidden beneath what looks harmless, and He intercepts accordingly. Sometimes protection looks like redirection. You thought you were headed in the right direction, but something nudged you off course. That nudge was not confusion, it was guidance. It was God steering you away from something you did not have the capacity to see. Other times, protection looks like resistance. Everything inside you wanted to move forward, but something held you back. That resistance was not failure, and it was safety. Beloved, God has intercepted dangers to your body, accidents that could have happened but did not, illnesses that could have escalated but were restrained, situations that could have turned fatal but were softened, medical outcomes that defied expectations. These are not random outcomes. They are evidence of divine intervention. He has intercepted dangers to your mind, thoughts that could have overwhelmed you, despair that could have consumed you, confusion that could have paralyzed you. But clarity returned, strength resurfaced, peace re-entered. God guarded your mental and emotional space when you were vulnerable. He has intercepted dangers to your destiny, assignments meant to distract you, detours meant to derail you, opportunities meant to entangle you. God shut them down before they gained influence. You did not lose anything that was truly meant for you. What left your life was not safe to carry forward. Beloved, interception often looks like protection without applause. No one claps for what never happened. No one celebrates the accident that did not occur. No one praises the disaster that was avoided. Yet heaven records every interception. God counts every prevention as a victory. You may not feel grateful for what you never saw, but your survival is built on unseen interventions. Your peace rests on invisible boundaries. Your progress is supported by quiet blockades placed by God. This is why gratitude does not always come from understanding. It comes from trust. There were times when you felt like something was off, but you could not explain it. A discomfort you could not name, a hesitation you could not justify. That was divine discernment activated for your protection. God communicates through intuition when words are unnecessary. Beloved, even your sleep has been protected. While you rested, God stood watch. While you were unconscious, heaven was alert. Protection did not pause because you did. Angels were active while you were inactive. Coverage continued while you were unaware. God has intercepted dangers that came through others' decisions. Someone else's mistake that could have impacted you, but did not. Someone else's recklessness that could have affected you, but was diverted. Someone else's intentions that could have harmed you, but were neutralized. You were spared from fallout that was not yours to carry. Sometimes interception comes through exposure. Something hidden was revealed early enough for you to escape. Sometimes it comes through concealment. You were hidden long enough for danger to pass. God knows when to reveal and when to hide. Both are forms of protection. Beloved, you are alive today, not just because you survived, but because God prevented. He stood between you and danger. He positioned himself as a barrier. He absorbed what you could not withstand. He rerouted what would have overwhelmed you. Even now, as you listen, there are things being intercepted on your behalf, conversations being redirected, decisions being altered, outcomes being adjusted. God is not only protecting your past and present, he is guarding your future. Allow this truth to quiet your fears. You are not as vulnerable as you think. You are not as exposed as you feel. You are not as unprotected as anxiety suggests. God has been intercepting dangers before they ever reached you, and he continues to do so with precision, intention, and unwavering faithfulness. Beloved, let your spirit come to rest as you receive this truth, because you were never designed to pray from fear, panic, or desperation. You were created to pray from authority. Fear suggests uncertainty, but authority is rooted in certainty. Authority is knowing who you are, knowing who God is, and knowing that heaven responds when you speak in alignment with divine order. When you pray, you are not hoping God notices you. You are not trying to convince him to care. You are not begging him to intervene. You are exercising a right that has already been granted to you. Prayer is not a last resort for the powerless. It is the first response of the authorized. Fear prays from survival, but authority prays from position. Fear asks, what if? But authority declares, it is written. Fear trembles at possibilities, but authority stands firm on promises. When you understand this, your posture in prayer changes, your voice steadies, your spirit aligns. Your words carry weight, not because of volume, but because of alignment. Beloved, authority is not arrogance. It is confidence rooted in relationship. It is the assurance that comes from knowing you are not speaking on your own behalf, but as one who has been commissioned. God does not hand out authority casually. He gives it to those who belong to him, those who are covered by covenant, those who are aligned with his will. When you pray, you are not approaching God as a stranger. You are approaching him as a child, as a representative, as one who has access. Fear tries to convince you that your prayers are small, that your faith is insufficient, that your words are weak. But authority reminds you that heaven responds not to perfection, but to position. You do not need flawless language. You do not need endless repetition. You do not need emotional intensity. You need alignment. Authority flows when you speak in agreement with what God has already established. Beloved, when Jesus spoke, storms obeyed. When he commanded, demons fled. Not because he shouted, but because he spoke from authority. That same authority has been extended to you. You do not pray to change God's mind. You pray to enforce God's will. Fear says you are powerless against what you see. Authority says what you see is subject to what God has spoken. When you pray from fear, you give attention to the problem. When you pray from authority, you give attention to God. Fear magnifies the obstacle. Authority magnifies the one who stands above it. Fear asks God to do something about the situation. Beloved, authority in prayer does not come from ignoring reality. It comes from acknowledging a higher reality. You may feel pressure, but pressure does not define you. You may face opposition, but opposition does not outrank you. You may encounter resistance, but resistance does not revoke your authority. Fear will tell you that if you do not pray hard enough, something bad will happen. Authority knows that God is already at work even before you open your mouth. Fear makes prayer heavy and calm elusive. Authority brings rest even while praying because you are not carrying the weight alone. Beloved, desperation drains you. Authority steadies you. Desperation makes prayer frantic. Authority makes prayer focused. Desperation begs for relief. Authority releases peace. You were not designed to live in constant urgency. You were designed to live in alignment. When you pray from authority, you do not rush God. You trust his timing. You do not panic when answers seem delayed. You remain anchored. Authority understands that delay does not mean denial. Fear assumes the worst. Authority expects alignment. Beloved, authority allows you to speak calmly in the face of chaos. It allows you to remain composed when circumstances are loud. It allows you to rest while heaven works. Fear exhausts you. Authority sustains you. There is a difference between crying out in faith and crying out in fear. Faith cries out because it knows someone is listening. Fear cries out because it is afraid no one is listening. Authority cries out knowing heaven is already attentive. Beloved, your authority does not come from your emotions. It comes from your identity. Even when you feel weak, your authority remains intact. Even when you feel unsure, your authority is not revoked. Even when you feel tired, your authority does not diminish. Authority is not powered by your energy. It is powered by God's word. When you pray from authority, you do not rehearse the problem endlessly. You declare truth once and stand. You do not fight battles in your mind repeatedly. You release them and rest. Fear keeps you trapped in cycles of worry. Authority breaks cycles by trust. Beloved, authority does not mean you never feel fear. It means fear does not lead. Fear may knock, but authority decides whether it enters. You acknowledge fear, but you do not submit to it. You choose alignment over anxiety. Prayer from authority shifts atmospheres. It brings order where chaos tries to dominate. It releases peace where tension lingers. It establishes boundaries where fear tries to roam freely. Authority is not loud, it is firm. Beloved, you do not need to raise your voice to be heard in heaven. You need to align your heart. Heaven recognizes authority instantly. Angels respond to alignment. The spiritual realm responds to order. Fear focuses on outcomes you cannot control. Authority focuses on obedience you can maintain. Fear worries about tomorrow. Authority rests in today. Fear imagines loss. Authority trusts preservation. Beloved, authority allows you to pray once and then rest. Fear prays repeatedly because it does not trust that anything changed. Authority knows that something shifted the moment alignment occurred. You may not see it immediately, but you trust it completely. When you pray from authority, you are not fighting for victory, you are standing in victory. Fear fights from the ground. Authority stands from a higher position. Fear asks, will God help me? Authority declares, God is with me. Beloved, this kind of prayer brings calm to your nervous system. It slows your breathing, it steadies your thoughts, it quiets the noise in your mind. Authority produces peace because it removes the illusion of isolation. You are not alone in prayer. You are not unsupported. You are not unheard. Authority reminds you that heaven is engaged. Fear makes prayer feel heavy. Authority makes prayer feel light. Fear drains you. Authority restores you. Fear keeps you watching the storm. Authority keeps you focused on God. Beloved, you were never meant to carry the burden of outcomes. You were meant to walk in alignment. Authority releases responsibility back to God where it belongs. Fear keeps responsibility trapped in your hands. When you pray from authority, you trust God with results. You trust Him with timing. You trust Him with process. Fear wants immediate proof. Authority rests without proof. Beloved, this is how you were designed to pray: calm, aligned, confident, steady, not shaken by uncertainty, not overwhelmed by possibilities, rooted in trust. You do not pray because you're afraid of what might happen. You pray because you know who is in charge. You do not pray to avoid disaster. You pray to enforce order. Let this truth settle gently. You are not powerless. You are not pleading from below. You are standing in authority granted by God Himself. Your prayers are not cries of panic. They are declarations of alignment. Beloved, let your spirit rest into this assurance, because nothing formed against you has the authority to finish you. There may be plans, intentions, conversations, and strategies that rise in opposition, but they rise without permission to prevail. No weapon means nothing crafted with harmful intent. Nothing designed to disrupt your peace. Nothing assembled to derail your destiny. Form does not mean empowered. Shape does not mean successful. Release does not mean effective. There is a difference between something existing and something having authority. And authority over your life does not belong to opposition. God never said weapons would not be formed. He said they would not prosper. This means you may become aware of resistance. You may encounter pressure. You may feel tension, but none of it carries the capacity to defeat you. The presence of opposition does not indicate failure. It often confirms significance. What is insignificant is not attacked. What carries purpose attracts resistance. Yet resistance is regulated. Beloved, there are agendas that operate quietly, intentions that remain hidden, accusations that circulate without your knowledge. But none of these have final authority. God sees what is formed in secret. He hears what is spoken in whispers. He understands motives behind actions, and he neutralizes outcomes before they mature. You do not need to defend yourself against every accusation. You do not need to confront every lie. You do not need to explain every misunderstanding. God assumes responsibility for your vindication. What is formed against you will expose itself in time. Truth has patience. Lies require urgency. God allows what is false to collapse under its own weight. Beloved, when something forms against you, it must pass through divine review. Nothing bypasses heaven to reach you. Nothing arrives unexamined. Nothing touches you without being filtered. And if God allows it to come close, it is because it cannot destroy you. Pressure is permitted. Destruction is not. There are words spoken against you that lose power the moment they leave the mouth. There are curses attempted that return void. There are plots designed that unravel prematurely, not because you are clever, but because God is sovereign. He intercepts at the level of intention. He disrupts at the level of planning. He dismantles at the level of execution. Beloved, sometimes the weapon looks convincing. It looks strong. It looks well crafted. It looks intimidating. But appearance does not equal authority. Strength does not equal permission. Loudness does not equal power. What matters is who stands behind you. And when God stands behind you, nothing can push you forward into destruction. There are seasons when it feels like opposition is coming from multiple directions. Pressure from work, tension in relationships, uncertainty about the future. Yet even combined resistance does not outweigh divine authority. No collective agenda is greater than God's will. No organized opposition outranks heaven. Beloved, prosperity is not only about finances or success. To prosper means to advance, to move forward, to accomplish purpose. No weapon formed against you will stop your advancement. It may slow you, it may challenge you, it may test your patience, but it will not stop what God has ordained. There are moments when you wonder why something formed against you at all, why opposition appeared when you were trying to do good, why resistance arose when you were moving in obedience. But formation does not mean endorsement. God allows formation so he can display limitation. He allows weapons to form so he can demonstrate his authority over them. Beloved, the enemy does not need to defeat you to distract you. Sometimes the goal is not destruction, but exhaustion. But exhaustion does not win either. God renews strength. God replenishes clarity. God replenishes peace. What tries to wear you down will not wear you out. There are weapons that take the form of fear, discouragement, delay, confusion, isolation. Not all weapons are dramatic. Some are subtle. Some are internal. Some are quiet. But none of them prosper. Fear does not overtake you. Discouragement does not define you. Delay does not cancel you. Confusion does not consume you. Beloved, even when something forms against you, God often uses it to reveal what he placed within you. Resistance exposes resilience. Pressure reveals stability. Opposition highlights purpose. What was meant to harm you ends up strengthening you. No agenda formed against your mind will steal your peace permanently. No agenda formed against your body will end your journey prematurely. No agenda formed against your family will destroy your foundation. No agenda formed against your calling will cancel your assignment. Beloved, there are times when it feels like the weapon is succeeding because you feel the impact, but impact does not equal victory. Feeling pressure does not mean losing ground. Experiencing difficulty does not mean defeat. Prosperity is not the absence of challenge. Prosperity is forward movement despite challenge. God does not promise a life without conflict. He promises a life without defeat. He does not promise ease. He promises preservation. He does not promise silence. He promises authority. Beloved, you are not required to fight every battle. Some battles dissolve when you remain still. Some conflicts fade when you refuse to engage. God fights on levels you cannot access. He addresses things you are not aware of. He resolves situations you do not understand. There are moments when you feel exposed because opposition is visible, but exposure does not equal vulnerability. God often allows things to surface so they can be dealt with openly. What is hidden lingers. What is revealed loses power. Beloved, no weapon formed against you will prosper because your life is aligned with purpose. Purpose creates protection. Purpose establishes boundaries. Purpose attracts divine oversight. Even when weapons form through people you trusted, through systems you depended on, through circumstances you did not expect, they still fail. Betrayal does not prosper. Injustice does not prevail. Opposition does not win. Beloved, sometimes the greatest weapon formed against you is discouragement about time. The thought that things are taking too long, that progress is slow, that results are delayed. But time is not against you. God operates outside of it. Delay is not denial. Waiting is not wasting. No agenda formed against your future will rewrite God's plan. No opposition formed against your past will redefine your identity. No pressure formed against your present will steal your peace. Beloved, even now, as you sit with uncertainty, nothing has slipped out of control. Nothing has escaped oversight. Nothing has been allowed to grow beyond its limit. God regulates intensity. God controls duration. God determines outcome. Weapons form, plans arise, agendas circulate, but prosperity belongs to those who remain aligned. Victory belongs to those who trust. Peace belongs to those who rest in God's authority. You do not need to constantly brace yourself for attack. You do not need to live anticipating failure. You are not walking into life defenseless. You are walking under authority. Beloved, let this truth calm your breathing. Let it settle your thoughts. Let it quiet your fears. No weapon formed against you will prosper. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Beloved, as we come into this closing moment, allow your spirit to rest without strain or urgency. There is nothing you need to prove, nothing you need to force, nothing you need to rush. God has already heard, already seen, already responded. What has been released in prayer does not linger unanswered. It settles. It takes root. It begins to work quietly beneath the surface, beyond your awareness, in ways that bring peace rather than pressure. Let your breathing slow and your thoughts soften. You do not have to replay every word spoken. You do not have to analyze every concern you brought before God. Trust does not require repetition. Trust requires release. What you placed in God's hands no longer belongs in yours. Rest is not avoidance. Rest is confidence that God is faithful to complete what He has begun. Even as you move back into your day or your night, understand that prayer does not end when words stop. Prayer continues through alignment. It continues through peace. It continues through the calm assurance that God is active even when you are still. You are not leaving this moment uncovered. You are carrying its effect with you. If there were moments during this prayer when your heart felt lighter, hold on to that. If there were moments when tears came quietly, let them be. If there were moments when you felt nothing at all, do not be discouraged. God works beyond emotion. He works in depth, in order, in truth. You do not need to look for immediate signs to confirm that something shifted. Faith does not demand proof. Faith rests in trust. What was spoken has already entered motion. What was surrendered has already been received. What was feared has already been addressed. As you rise from this prayer, carry gentleness with you. Speak kindly to yourself. Give your soul permission to be at ease. Anxiety loses its grip when trust takes its place. Peace is not fragile. It is sustained by God Himself. Remember that you are not walking alone. You are accompanied by grace. You are surrounded by protection. You are guided by wisdom. Even when you do not feel strong, strength is present. Even when clarity feels distant, direction is already set. Let tonight or this moment be different. Let your mind rest instead of race. Let your heart slow instead of strive. Let your spirit remain open instead of guarded. God does not rush outcomes, and neither must you. Carry this calm into your decisions, into your conversations, into your waiting. You do not have to explain what God is doing. You do not have to defend your peace. You are allowed to be still and confident at the same time. And as you go forward, remember this: what has been placed under God's care remains under God's care. Nothing slips through His hands. Nothing escapes His sight. Nothing outweighs His authority. Remain in peace. Remain in trust. Remain aligned. God is with you. God is ahead of you. And God is already working in ways that will reveal themselves in time.